Hello, I'm Stuart Bloor and I'm doing something a little bit different this week. As always, I'm watching the rod tip while I talk, wasting no time, get the bait out there. I've been on the canal so far this year, if you follow my videos every week, but now I'm on a little brook, and when I say a little brook, it really is. It's officially a brook, it's not a stream and it's certainly not a river, and I've decided to come and test the perch potential. So this is very much a pioneering session, a pioneering week if you like, so I'm going to make a few visits here. I haven't got a clue what to expect. If I can catch perch, I'll be over the moon. If I can catch a 6-ounce fish, I'll be ecstatic. We've had some overnight rain, there's a horrible colour. It's up a little bit. If this was the middle 7 it wouldn't be an issue. But you know, 1 or 2 inches on a small brook like this can be quite devastating in terms of affecting the fishing. But as I always say, as long as my bait's in the water, I've got a chance. My intention was to fish with a small lead, a worm on the hook, ground bait, maggots out by hand. After my first cast, I realised that was impossible. The bait was just getting washed away and I couldn't present my hook bait properly, so I've gone for a small cage feeder, just a 20 gram one, just a tiny cage feeder. That's sufficient to hold it on the bottom there. Never be afraid to think like that, even on small venues like this, when the conditions are so. I've had 1 blank so far this year. That was when I was pioneering on the canal after perch. It was an all or nothing approach. I had a big clump of worms on. I was getting loads of lightning strike bites of small roach. If I'd have been fishing with a maggot and a small hook, I would definitely have caught. So just the 1 blank so far this year. If I can avoid one today, I'll tell you something, I'll be doing a dance. The dance floor didn't have to be cleared for me, that's for sure. Anyway, I'm back for a second session, and as always, watching that rod tip while I talk. The water level has dropped considerably. That colour that we had before, which was an orangey brown colour, all the flood water being washed in, relatively speaking, it was only inches up really. That's gone, and it's now looking quite good. The big challenge for me on this venue won't be the conditions though, it'll actually be finding the fish, and I've tried a few spots so far today, nothing at all, but I've just had a little bit of a pluck. It might be a minnow or a tiny roach or whatever, but nevertheless that has really encouraged me. As you can see from the footage coming up on the screen, it's very shallow. It is a brook after all, and what you're looking for on a venue like this is not to fish the runs, the straight sections, but to head for the bends. That's where the water has scoured a deeper channel over time. And what I've got in front of me now, I'm fishing a channel, and what I've got in front of me now is actually 3 feet of water, which for a place like this is phenomenal. And that's why I was encouraged to get that little bit of a bite just now, because if there are fish in here, then this is where they've got to be for sure. As you can see here, I'm getting lots and lots of snags. It's a very overgrown venue. I'm back for a 3rd visit. We have a saying in these parts: don't get flogging a dead oss. That's a horse. Don't get flogging a dead oss. In other words, don't waste your time on something that is never going to happen. Now in this instance, I'm confident that there are fish in there. I've already had 1 or 2 little plucks along the way, haven't I? And I'm confident that I'm going to, you know, get into a perch, which is my chosen target fish. But the one thing is, I'm enjoying it. That's important. And when it does come together, I'll tell you something, I'll be over the moon. And if it doesn't, well, I'll still be happy anyway, because you never know what's in these sort of waters unless you get out there and give it your best shot. And a lot of my venues that I fish now regularly and I do very well on, I found them out in the first place because I went and tried them. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in fishing, even if you're blank, even if it doesn't work, so to speak, you're never flogging a dead oss. I'm on my 4th visit and I've actually fished 4 different spots this morning. Not even the tiniest pluck on any of them. Anyway, I do feel I've perhaps flogged this off enough for now. I would like to come back. I'm convinced there's something in here. I'm convinced there's perhaps a decent perch, relatively speaking, for the venue. It's not a pike place, so the perch will be at the top of the predator chain. And the fact that I haven't caught lots of small ones is probably a good sign in a way if you want to catch a decent fish. Anyway, I am going to move on because I do want to catch some of my favourite species this week. It hasn't been a wasted time or wasted journey should I say, to put this time in on here, because first of all, fishing is never a wasted time, is it? And secondly, the still waters, the canals, are frozen solid anyway, so I couldn't have been on those. So I'm going to give it a few days, or as long as it takes, and I'll pick the video up again when I can get on perhaps a recognised perch venue and get a few on the bank. But back to the point I'm making about never a wasted time when you're out there fishing. I've just seen my second merlin of the year, so that's great, isn't it? I haven't caught, ready to pack away now, unless I get one right at the death. I haven't caught in 4 sessions on here, but I've just seen a merlin. I'm now on a more familiar venue after perch, the canal. I've given it a few days actually because the canals were frozen, as I mentioned earlier in the video. They've now thawed. Of course, it'll take a little bit of time for the water to pick up. But as I always say, and I've said it many times before and I'll say it many times in the future, no doubt, as long as I've got a bait in the water, I've got a chance, haven't I? And I've just arrived. I've picked a spot opposite an overhanging tree, a little bit of cover for the fish during the winter. Got that bait in the water. I'm fishing worm over red maggots, putting some ground bait out as well to bring the fish in. So, fingers crossed, as they say, although I don't believe in any of that sort of stuff. I think it's down to watercraft, and hopefully, if there are fish in there, I'm not sure about that brook, although I will give it another go in the future. If there are fish out there, I'm pretty confident I'll get amongst them. And I've just netted my first perch of the week, and it's a nice fish as well. I didn't film the play because I didn't want to waste any time at all. I wanted to get this one in the net, and it is. And there it is. Not the biggest fish I've caught, of course, but under the circumstances of the week I've had so far, very, very welcome indeed. Brilliant. And I now know what a perch looks like, because I was in the process of forgetting, I think. Well, that fish has gone back now, and I'm a happy camper, as they say. Anyway, the thing with that bite, or that fish should I say, is that the bite wasn't really anything that you would get excited about normally. It was a very slight tap, tap, tap on the rod over a period of time, so it was sort of telling me that there was something out there, maybe a very small fish, almost like playing with the food. And I decided to lift into it, and lo and behold, I had that perch on. It came alive actually once I upped it. And this is the thing really, with the water temperature being quite low, just recovering from being iced over the canal, of course, that the fish are not very active just yet. They're quite lethargic. That's why location is important. And on this occasion, fishing under an overhanging tree or to a far bank overhanging tree, that's where you're likely to get the fish. They're not moving around at the moment. If I was on the canal and setting up anywhere in the hope or the belief that at some point during the session fish would come swimming through, then I'd be disappointed. The key to winter fishing is to get onto the fish from the start. It's still a challenge, of course, to actually catch one, but to get on them from the start, then at least you give yourself a chance, don't you? You may be watching this video thinking, I've sat through 10 minutes almost of my life and I've watched this guy catch one perch. What's that all about? Well, I think it's important, if you're an angling blogger, to tell the truth. I think any one of us can produce videos and I'm the same. Here's a fish, here's another fish, here's a bigger fish, here's an even bigger one. We could all do that, couldn't we? But if you're an angling blogger, and this is where I'm coming from, it's up to everyone to make their own path really. But for me, it's more than just look at the fish that I've caught. For me, it's about sharing my life, my journey, my experiences, and in the process, hoping and believing that that journey, that path that I'm on, will inspire other anglers. Because let's face it, I mean, this week has been a struggle. I've fished that brook for a start. A lot of people might be thinking, why don't you just scrap the footage of the brook and start now? At least you'd have some decent fish perhaps by the end of this week to share on video. But it's about being honest. And it's also about sharing the reality of what fishing is about. Because there are times when we do pioneer, there are times when we do go on new stretches. I could have gone on that brook and ended up with some, relatively speaking, monster fish. I would have shared them, of course, but I'm also happy to share the times that I struggle. And I think as anglers we appreciate that, don't we, more than just a whole gallery of big fish that are produced for the camera all the time. So I would say if you're an angling blogger, it's up to you of course what path you take, but I would say if you're an angling blogger, share the big picture, share the highs, share the lows, share the successes, share the failures, but in reality of course, and as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing as a low, there's no such thing as a failure. Even that brook experience, I'll be back. I'm absolutely convinced that there are fish in there. It may be a while, I'll probably wait for the water to warm up. It might be even next river season now, but that is definitely stored at the back of my mind, and I'm going to be back on that brook, and I'm determined to catch a perch from it. So as they say, watch this space. Anyway, I've got another hour or so to go on the canal. It's tough, as I said, but it would be wonderful if I could catch a second fish for the camera this week. I was only saying to my wife this morning, I've published a blog every Saturday for over 600 consecutive weeks on the bounce, and I've always had a fish in the blog. Even if it's only been just a few fish, I've always caught something. Well, this week I'm really pushing it, aren't I? It's often, in angling, as indeed in life, a thin line between success and failure, and I'm just happy to be on the right side of that line this week. And you know that perch that I caught, I said that I wasn't going to mess around filming it, I just wanted to get it in the net. Oh, I got one. Yes, oh, this is a big fish. This is a big fish. And I don't want to lose this one. This is a big perch. Oh, well, for the canal anyway, relatively speaking. Oh, yes! Where was I? The thin line between success and failure. Forget that. I'm definitely on the right side of it. Brilliant. What a cracker. And do you know, the hook came out in the net. What a beautiful perch. Absolutely fantastic. That's not just made my day, that's made my week, it's made my year, I think. My favourite species. And when you get one like this from the canal where they don't go very big, I'll tell you, this is absolutely brilliant. I've fished hundreds, probably thousands of perch hours on the Staffs Worcestershire Canal over the years, and that is a new PB for me from this particular canal. I'm absolutely thrilled. I hope you've enjoyed the video. What a way to go out, eh? Bit of a slow start on the brook, but a fantastic few hours this afternoon on the canal. Check out my website. If you want to connect with me, I've also got a Facebook page as well. That's a personal one. Send me a friend request, it'll be granted, and we can connect on there. Out and about yourself this weekend, tight lines, and I'll see you next week.